Hi, I'm Eva Gardner, and you're watching ForBassPlayersOnly.com.
Hi everyone, John Liebman here. You're watching ForBassPlayersOnly.com. We're coming to you on location from the 2020 NAMM show, Anaheim, California, with our special guest today, Eva Gardner. Hello, Eva.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you. It's quite an honor. You've done so much, and the people want to hear about you. Everything from Gwen Stefani and Pink and Cher and all the other people that you've played with. So let's start from the beginning, though. You are actually a native from Hollywood, California. And I want to hear first about the early days, your initial exposure to music, how you became a bass player. I know your father was very instrumental in that, played a major role. But what is that story as far as that goes?
Yeah, well, my story absolutely does start with my dad, actually. He was a bass player. He was from London. He was part of the British invasion of the 60s and 70s in his first band with Ron Wood, and was in a band with Rod Stewart, and part of that whole scene back in swinging 60s in London. So he moved out to LA in the 70s and continued music, and he eventually opened up a British pub called the Cat and Fiddle in Hollywood in 1982. And that was just a hub for his musician buddies, entertainment. So I just grew up in that world as a young child. With all the crazy rock and rollers, you know, and a lot of them British. So just being in that world, it just completely seeped into every pore of my being, and I just knew it's what I wanted to do as well, and I followed suit.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I have two younger sisters who are twins.
Okay, and was everybody into music like you were?
Yeah, everyone was musical, and we were all exposed to the same stuff, but I was the one who actually took it to the next level and was really serious about it and took the leap, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, your dad being a bass player, so it's kind of obvious and logical how you would be around that and be attracted to that. But did you go straight to the bass, or did you take a roundabout? Did you play anything else? Did you take piano lessons as a kid or anything like that?
I took lessons, and I chickened out of my recital. Like, it just wasn't my thing. But once I actually started playing bass, like, that was it. It was the bass or nothing for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you start listening to music differently once you discovered the bass? Did you have any bass influences, any bass heroes?
Yeah, sure. Well, I was actually, fortunate enough to grow up knowing personally some really incredible bass players. One of which was John Entwistle, and he was really good friends with my dad. They used to play shows together when they were 15 years old, so they grew up together, and they had that relationship. So I was fortunate to just be around people like that, and he was super encouraging to me, and little goes a long way when you're a kid.
You played for him and he gave you feedback?
I stayed at his house in England, and he was like, I hear you're learning how to play bass, and he just opened up this closet full of basses, and he's like, well, anyone is yours for the weekend. So I chose a little Fender Precision bass because that's what Dad played, and he just took me into his recording studio they had in his house and just showed me around. And
you were about how old at the time?
I was 14, I believe. But I look back now, and having those moments were so monumental for me to have that encouragement. Like, he made me feel included. And at the time, he was just one of my dad's friends. Like, I didn't know until later how instrumental he literally was to music, and the bass in particular. So I'm just so grateful that I had that encouragement and those experiences from an early age.
Wow, I'm sure there's a lot of stories that you can share with us, but in the interest of time, why don't we fast forward a little bit to some of your career highlights, whether it's how your career got started and how you started playing the bass professionally, or if you want to jump in and give some particular stories or anything you want to share about any of the people that I mentioned or anything else.
Well, I realized, like, when I was younger, I realized that I had to take a different path than my dad and his friends. In the 60s, 70s, it was a lot easier. You know, they didn't necessarily go to music school or things like that. And so I tried that path, and then I failed my audition for when I went to music school because I had that, like, I don't need to learn how to read music. Jimi Hendrix didn't know how to learn it, you know. So I came from that, but I learned real quickly, like, oh, okay, it's not 1964 anymore. You know, I have to take a different path, and I chose to go to school and do things in that way, and I'm glad I did, and I was exposed to a lot of incredible stuff, and I eventually just worked my way You know, I'd like played the crappy clubs and slept on floors and just worked my way up, really. And you establish relationships and create your network. And, you know, they say your network is your net worth kind of a thing. And, you know, a lot of it, if not all of it, is like those relationships that you establish, and as well as how you play, of course. And you know, all those factors play a role.
All right. I don't know if you get asked this question a lot or not, but being a female and playing the bass in a role that's traditionally been dominated by males, did that make it more difficult, or did it make it easier, or did it not make a difference, or anything you can share about that?
I think it definitely was more of a challenge in some ways, because you have to navigate uncharted waters and figure out how to well, at first for me it was like how to blend in, and you know, I stopped wearing skirts for a really long time because of the comments that I would get. But then you just learn how to own that and own who you are and be proud of who you are. And I think that when that happens, that energy is contagious, and then you're commended for who you are. And just as many times as I've not gotten hired because I was a woman, I did get hired because I was a woman. And you know, I just want to play music.
I've heard you play, and you can definitely groove.
Thank you.
And that's what's important.
Thank you.
I understand you had a solo record released in 2019.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Yes, my first solo endeavor. It's called Chasing Ghosts. It's a 5-song EP. I released it last year, and it's been really fun and exciting to actually like be singing and playing and putting on a different hat. And I'm working on new music right now.
What inspired that title?
Chasing Ghosts. You know, I was having I've lost a lot of people in my life, and I think that driving around town, going to the same places, like their presence is always through memories. The presence is always kind of there, and it just reminded me of like just kind of chasing ghosts around the city, you know, especially growing up in Hollywood. I still live in Hollywood, so there's a lot of memories associated with places that are there and not there anymore, and people that are there and not there anymore. So that's the inspiration.
Other than the work that you're doing, writing for presumably a follow-up album,
Yeah, hopefully.
What else is keeping you busy? I know you just got off the road. And if you want to share anything about that, that might be interesting to our audience as well. But you know, what's going on? What else is keeping you busy?
Well, I just finished a 2.5-year tour with Pink, a world tour, which was incredible, and we just wrapped that up. So I am taking advantage of my time at home right now. I'm in like engineering school, recording school.
Where?
Online. And I recorded and wrote my record in hotel rooms on tour with Pink, with my laptop and a little interface, and
something your dad never did in his day.
No, exactly. Technology is amazing. So I just wanted to get better at that and learn more about that. And now that I have this opportunity to delve in a little bit deeper, I'm doing that.
Tell me about your gear. What are you playing?
Fender Precision basses. I play Ampeg amps, Roto Sound strings. I keep it pretty old school, I guess.
Any effects or pedals or anything like that?
I do. When I do use effects, it's usually a distortion pedal. I've been using the Turbo Rat a lot recently. I use some chorus. Usually like Boss pedals, and you know, for what I do, it doesn't call for a whole lot of effects. But when I do, it's usually those things.
Sounds like tried and true blue chip instruments.
Yeah.
Fender, Ampeg, Roto Sound. You won't go Boss. You won't go wrong with those. I do want to ask you about bass technique. Well, we've got a big audience that has gotten to know us in the early days for all the interviews that we've done with bass players, the one-on-one interviews like this. But we're getting more and more people that are joining our online music instruction, bass playing instruction at forbassplayersonly.com. So what advice can you impart to somebody who wants to learn to play the bass? Given your background and your experience, what do you think is important for somebody to know?
I would say be as versatile as possible. Listen to and learn as many styles of music as you can. Listen to and learn as many styles of playing as you can. One of the best things that ever happened to me was I started out playing with a pick, and I was like, you know, like a rock and roll pick player. And in my first day of jazz band in high school, my instructor was like, "Miss Eva, put down that pick." So I did, and it was trial by fire. And from that point on, I learned how to play with my fingers. And that was another skill that on the spot that I acquired. And now when I go into a situation, when I'm playing for an artist and a musical director says, oh, play this one with a pick. Great, sure. The next one, oh, play this one like more finger style. Great, no problem. So I can, you act as a chameleon in some ways when you're working for different artists and for different people. And I've just found that just getting as much knowledge about, just be open. A lot of people are closed-minded to oh, I don't listen to country, or I don't listen to hip-hop, or whatever it is, or I don't, a pick, that's for rock, whatever it is. I think that just opening up your mind is the best thing that you can do, and always strive to learn more. I still take lessons. I started taking piano lessons again, actually. It's just learning more as much as you can do, I think, makes you a more valuable player.
That is a good, healthy attitude. Other than the new record and maybe a couple other things you mentioned, what about beyond that? What about the future? What else would you like to do that you haven't accomplished yet?
Oh, man, there's so many people I'd love to play with and so many things I'd like to do. It's hard to say. I'm open to any and all of it, though. I'm just excited about playing with new people, meeting new people, and seeing what's out there.
Also a very healthy attitude. I have one more question for you, Eva. What would you be if you weren't a bass player, if you can imagine that? Something outside of music.
An astronomer.
Yeah.
That was what I wanted to be when I was in 3rd grade.
Okay.
And then I found music. And then I realized how much math was involved.
Do you think Pluto got a bum rap being part of us and then being kicked out?
Yeah, Pluto got ripped off.
Yeah.
I think. It's not fair.
Somebody else, I was interviewing Cody Wright, and I think he gave me a similar answer. I said, what, are we not getting their tax revenue anymore? Is that what it is? All right. Well, congratulations on all your success, and keep doing what you're doing. There's so much more that we can talk about, so maybe we'll do a follow-up interview in the not-too-distant future and dive in a little deeper into your interesting life and career.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Let us know when the new record is out. And in the meantime, on location at the 2020 NAMM Show, Anaheim, California, with my new friend, Eva Gardner. You're watching the #1 site for exclusive one-on-one bass player interviews, and now more and more people's favorite site for learning bass online, for BassPlayersOnly.com. I'm John Liebman. Let's play bass.